Prosecutors are human beings. Okay, why am I talking about this? Not only the fact that, as you can tell back here, I've been a prosecutor for a long period of time, but because we're human beings, prosecutors, by definition, prosecutors are flawed, like the rest of us. Look, you're going to hear big words when you're in the criminal justice system. Grand juries and prosecutors and police and chiefs, and it's very very systematic, I guess, for lack of a better word. But there's a curtain there too. You can have lots of titles, but it doesn't make you any smarter. It doesn't make you any more sophisticated. It doesn't make you any wiser, for sure. Look, when I started out as a prosecutor and when I ended my career as a prosecutor, I was a different prosecutor. What does that mean? When I was young, I was filled with vim and vinegar, as they would say. And I needed to remember a quote that actually a priest said to me when I was in college, and I've been recently writing about it in my Sirens and Submission newsletter. I need to round the edges off, that I had a lot of greatness in me, he said, but you had to round the edges off. And I remember getting into an epic battle with an attorney when I was about 6 months out of law school on a case. And when I look back on it now, I realized that the lawyer threw his pen down and said, "You're just completely unreasonable," and he stormed away. That he was right. The reason wasn't that Bob Bianchi wanted to be wrong, or Bob Bianchi wanted to be a jerk, or Bob Bianchi wanted to be a hard ass. That wasn't the reason. It was that Bob Bianchi wasn't being properly trained. Bob Bianchi wasn't being properly mentored. Bob Bianchi had no yardstick or no measurement to know what the value of a case is or isn't. What is justice? What is punishment and deterrence? But what's also mercy and rehabilitation? I was a kid. I just got out of law school. I got Esquire after my name. Didn't make me any smarter. Didn't make me any wiser. I needed experiential knowledge. I needed mentorship. And as I went through my career, I found my mentors, and I promised that someday, because I had the dream of being the head prosecutor since I was 5 years old. That's for another story, literally on my 5th birthday, another story. But I promised that I would never have an office or run an office where every single person, especially the young people, wouldn't come in and have incredible mentorship and incredible training, that they would be skilled and learn skills. By the way, a little bit of a problem I got. I don't think people really want to learn skills anymore, but they're going to learn the skills. They're going to learn how to properly evaluate the case. They're going to learn the evidence rules. They're going to learn can be admitted, not be admitted, how strong the case is or isn't, how to approach defense lawyers, how to negotiate. So you're not just out there chaotically trying to do things. Now, you got to own it, and it's got to be your own. I always say that. But having that mentorship was key. So was I the same prosecutor from when I was an assistant prosecutor to when I left to being the head county prosecutor? Absolutely not. I saw things in a more mature way, and this gets to the point of what I'm trying to say. Many times, my biggest lament with prosecutors is that, respectfully, and I know they're worked very hard, and I have a lot of respect for what they do, but they're not evaluating the case correctly, or they're hitting a fly, I used to say, with a sledgehammer, or they're not looking at in a more wholesome way, balancing those interests. Now, that's okay, because I was that person too. The thing that roused me was that I was always willing to listen. When you have people who aren't willing to listen, and they believe they have incredible power, and there can become hubris and arrogance with power. I was a very prayerful person, always very faith-based, very scriptural, and always wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing, and always recognize I was flawed as a human being and I can make a mistake. Okay? Now, I hope most of the prosecutors we deal with, we're going to agree with that, and that we're working together for achieving this mixture, this thing that we make that has a little touch of deterrence and punishment, but also has mercy and compassion, and we use wisdom, surrounded by wisdom as to what's the best thing. I think the most powerful thing to me as a prosecutor were those opportunities, the ones that I remember, where we gave a break to somebody who made the best of it, who nobody wanted to give a break to, who were downtrodden, who were the lowest point of their lives, who had never had mental health or addiction services, and to see the turnaround in their life because we decided to extend them compassion and mercy and make sure that they didn't continue to represent a continuing danger to the community. Does it take effort for a prosecutor to do that? Yeah. Does it take extra work to do that? Yeah. Do you have to kind of go on a limb sometimes and hope you don't make a mistake? Yeah. But they're the most gratifying cases. Too much today. I didn't mean to go in this direction, but I think too much today. And I get it. I ran an agency. I understand you want your agency to be respected. You don't want to be embarrassed. But there were times where I would say to my staff, I can't let the media tail wag the dog. I can't always be concerned that in my heart, I know what the right thing is, but I'm not going to do it because of how it's going to appear in the media and how they're going to twist it and distort it. And I'm proud to say that I didn't let that happen, because that would have been a detriment to an individual defendant, who I have a responsibility for as a prosecutor, but it would have also been an injury to the justice system itself. Unfortunately, we see more and more prosecutors caving to the court of public opinion. Why am I mentioning all of this? Because a good criminal defense attorney, I like to say, speaks prosecutor. Like people speak Spanish, people speak prosecutor. And you understand the pressure the prosecutor's under, and you understand that they're not omnipotent and they make mistakes. And they may make investigative mistakes that have a significant impact on the outcome of the case. But they may also view your client a certain way because all they're doing is opening up a file and seeing pieces of paper that say bad things. They never say anything good. And it's your job as a defense lawyer, for those who are watching this, and lots of people watching get trained by us, to shine the light on this. You can't expect the prosecutor to know what you don't tell them. I'll say it again. You can't expect the prosecutor to know what you don't tell them. So when you're looking at a defense lawyer, or you have a defense lawyer who says, well, we don't have to do anything because the burden of proof is with the prosecutor to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, and we don't have to say a word or whatever, that's foolishness. That's foolhardy. The prosecutor has the discretion, has been given broad, huge discretion. For you prosecutors out there, listen to me. You were given that huge discretion for a reason. You were given it because there was trust being reposed to you that you would exercise your discretion in a dispassionate, judicious way that not only was about punishment and putting people in jail, but was also about mercy and rehabilitation. So they gave this power, and that they trusted that the people that had the badge that's hanging there, and the one that's hanging there, that they would use it with the humility that the power of changing and affecting lives that prosecutors have at their disposal will be used wisely. So I wish in a greater world, and I wish politicians, especially because they're the ones that make the difference here, Democrats and Republicans, would start putting money where their mouth is about criminal justice reform. And instead of going to academics and whatever, go to the people who've done the job. Go to the people who've done the job well. Let's have a dialogue. We need to be dialoguing more with our Attorney General. We need to be dialoguing with the Prosecutors Association, of which I was a part of when I was the county prosecutor. We need to be expressing our fears, our concerns, our feeling that sometimes the prosecutors aren't responsive. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes there's an arrogance, there's a laziness, there's a misunderstanding or a misdiagnosis of the case. And it's our responsibility of the defense attorneys to not just sit there and hope everything's going to be okay. It's to let the prosecutor know. And if you're getting a prosecutor that's not willing to listen, this whole thing that we can't move up the chain of command, and offices that are set up that way, by the way, you prosecutors that aren't allowing defense lawyers to be able to move up the chain of command to the executive assistant, first assistant, or to you. I mean, you're running the office. This is your office. This is your reputation. This is your responsibility to ensure that they faithfully execute the laws of the state of New Jersey and the U.S. Constitution. I kind of heard that somewhere before, and that you should want to speak to defense lawyers who are seasoned and experienced to know what it is that your staff is doing and not doing. It's not punitive. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's having a dialogue. It's having a conversation. Let's do it. And for you defense lawyers that are out there, again, I say to you, don't expect the prosecutor to know what you don't tell them. Tell them about the mitigating circumstances. Tell them about the mitigating circumstances of the crime potentially. Tell them about who your client is. Tell them about all the great aspects of your client when they're not being charged with a crime. Tell them give them reports and treatment, and maybe psychiatric treatment or addiction treatment. Let the prosecutor feel that if they cut a break to this individual, they're not going to see them again. And then hopefully you and the prosecutor, one of the most powerful stories I have as a prosecutor, maybe the prosecutor was involved is watching this video, was when we walked away and gave a break to the last guy in the world that deserved it. Last guy, according to the papers, according to the way people do things, lots of rehabs, lots of state prison sentences, whatever. But I had a hunch that this time it was different. And I met with this defendant personally as the prosecutor and my team. And we gave that guy a break. And he did the right thing. I mean, like my old boss used to say, there's plenty of cases. You're not going to run out of cases. This person was broken. The person was drug addicted. The person was doing well. They were treating. And he's a huge success story right now. I don't want to out him, but we're friends now. We're friends on Facebook. We communicate with one another. He's amazing. He's awesome. This is a success story in the criminal justice system. Have I put people in jail for life? Yeah, I've done that. Do I look at that with the same level of pride I did that I actually rehabilitated a person that's making a difference in the lives of so many other people? I don't know. You make the call. We all have the power to make people's lives better. Criminal defense lawyers, prosecutors, judges, all of us in the criminal justice system. What a great opportunity we all have being trial lawyers. Thanks for listening. Bianchi Law Group, team of former prosecutors throughout the state of New Jersey, criminal defense, municipal court, domestic violence. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have a video you'd like to see, love to do it. Thanks very much. Peace.